For years, it stayed hidden, an exquisite royal treasure with a story the palace never told. Today, we uncover the mystery. Watch until the very end, because what you'll discover will change the way you see royal jewels forever. In the spring of 1923, London was buzzing with excitement. The wedding of Lady Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon and the Duke of York, future King George VI, was not just a royal event, it was a moment the entire nation celebrated. The streets were lined with well-wishers, newspapers overflowed with headlines, and the royal family prepared a gift that would forever be tied to this young bride's story. King George V, known for his deep sense of tradition and grandeur, chose something extraordinary. From the renowned jeweler's Gerard came a Persian turquoise parure, an opulent suite of jewels that included a tiara, a magnificent necklace, a pair of elegant earrings, and a striking brooch. The pieces shimmered with diamonds and glowing blue-green turquoise, a stone long associated with love, loyalty, and the promise of lasting happiness. In keeping with royal custom, the parure was put on public display at St. James's Palace, alongside the many lavish wedding gifts sent from across the globe. Crowds pressed forward to catch a glimpse, dazzled by the craftsmanship and the rare harmony between the icy brilliance of diamonds and the warm, serene glow of turquoise. To the public, it was more than a set of jewels. It was a symbol of a hopeful union and a promise that this young couple's journey together would be as enduring and beautiful as the gems themselves. The tiara at the heart of this parure had a history of its own, one that began decades before it ever touched the head of a royal bride. Crafted around 1900 by the master jewelers at R&S Gerard, it was more than a glittering accessory. It was a work of art steeped in meaning. Every detail had been carefully chosen to convey a message. Set within its elegant frame were delicate motifs known as the lamps of love, symbols of devotion and enduring affection. Interwoven among them, laurel wreaths spoke of triumphs and honor, while intricate lovers' knots tied the design together, emblems of unity and fidelity that had been cherished for centuries. The craftsmanship was nothing short of remarkable. The base was fashioned from hand-pierced gold, providing the strength needed for its intricate structure, while platinum settings held the gems with a precision that gave the diamonds their unmistakable sparkle. The metal was finished with a fine milligrain edging, a delicate beading along the borders that softened the lines and caught the light in the most enchanting way. Look closely, and you could see how the jeweler had rendered silk-like ribbons curling gracefully around the lamps of love, as though a real hand had tied them just moments before. It was this artistry, this ability to turn metal and stone into something alive, that made the tiara not merely an ornament, but a silent storyteller of romance and heritage. Not long after her wedding, the Duchess of York began introducing parts of the Persian turquoise parure into her public appearances, though not always in its complete form. In a series of formal portraits taken during the early years of her marriage, she wore the turquoise earrings and brooch as pendants suspended from long strands of pearls. These portraits, featuring her in the graceful lotus flower tiara, became some of the most iconic images of the young Duchess, blending the freshness of her style with the quiet elegance of heirloom jewels. A few years later, in 1927, the jewels accompanied her far from the gilded halls of London. The Duchess and the Duke of York embarked on a demanding tour of Australia, a journey that brought them face to face with vast crowds in cities and remote communities alike. During one of the official events, she chose the turquoise brooch as her accent piece, a subtle flash of blue-green set against the formal attire of a royal tour. It was a small but deliberate choice, a way of carrying a token of home, history, and sentiment thousands of miles across the world. Even in the heat and dust of the Australian summer, the brooch's glow remained cool and serene, a quiet reminder of the love and tradition it represented. By the close of the 1920s, the Duchess of York and her turquoise Peru had begun making appearances far beyond the borders of Britain. In 1929, one of Europe's most glittering royal gatherings took place in Oslo, the wedding of Crown Prince Olaf of Norway to Princess Martha of Sweden. The event was not only a union of two royal houses, but also a showcase of regal fashion and magnificent jewels. For the gala performance at the National Theatre, the Duchess selected the full Persian turquoise Peru, its vivid stones standing out brilliantly against the candlelit interiors. The cool blue-green of the turquoise seemed almost to echo the crisp Nordic winter air outside, drawing admiring glances from guests and photographers alike. 5 years later, in 1934, another royal wedding would see the Peru step back into the spotlight, this time much closer to home. The marriage of Prince George, Duke of Kent, to Princess Marina of Greece brought together the British and Greek royal families in a celebration brimming with pageantry. At the wedding ball, the Duchess of York's appearance was unforgettable, the tiara crowning her softly waved hair, the necklace lying perfectly over the décolletage of her gown, the diamonds catching and scattering the ballroom's warm light. It was a moment where every element, the silk, the lace, the jewels, spoke in harmony of royal elegance. The following year, 1935, offered yet another stage for these extraordinary jewels. The British Empire exhibition was a grand showcase of the nation's power, culture, and artistry, attracting visitors from across the Commonwealth. Here, amid pavilions and formal receptions, the Duchess wore the Peru with quiet authority, its distinctive color setting her apart from the sea of diamond-white tiaras. That same year marked the Silver Jubilee of King George V, and the celebrations culminated in a spectacular ball. Once again, the Duchess took her place among the senior members of the royal family, the turquoise Peru gleaming under the glow of chandeliers, a perfect blend of sentiment, symbolism, and spectacle. The summer of 1935 was a season of glittering engagements for the Duchess of York, a final flourish of grand appearances before history would shift the course of her life forever. That year, London's diplomatic circles buzzed with events marking both the Silver Jubilee of King George V and the intricate network of international relations the royal family maintained. One evening, the Austrian mission in London hosted an elegant concert, drawing a select audience of diplomats, aristocrats, and foreign dignitaries. The Duchess arrived in a gown of soft satin, her turquoise tiara catching the light each time she turned her head. The Peru's distinctive hue provided a striking counterpoint to the more traditional diamond and pearl ensembles around her. It was a subtle but powerful statement, modern, confident, and unmistakably personal. Not long after, the jewels traveled with her to Belgium, where the royal couple attended a state banquet at the Chateau of Laeken, the residence of King Leopold III. Against the backdrop of the Belgian royal court, the Duchess' turquoise Peru seemed to glow even brighter, its color enriched by the warm, golden tones of the palace's grand interiors. The sight of the tiara, necklace, earrings, and brooch together created a harmony of design rarely seen outside of formal portraiture, and it left a lasting impression on those in attendance. Few could have guessed that these appearances marked the end of an era. Within a year, the Duke of York would be called to the throne as King George VI, and the young Duchess would take on the far more demanding role of Queen Consort. The turquoise Peru, once a sparkling feature of her society engagements, would soon be seen in a new light, no longer just a wedding gift, but part of the legacy of a queen. By the early 1950s, the Persian turquoise Peru had been quietly set aside for years, resting in its velvet-lined cases. Then, in 1951, it found a new life in the hands of a new owner, Queen Elizabeth, now the Queen Mother, chose this treasured wedding gift to mark an important milestone for her younger daughter, Princess Margaret, her 21st birthday. It was a present rich in sentiment as well as beauty. Not only did it carry the memory of the Queen Mother's own early years, but it also offered Margaret a complete and perfectly matched suite of jewels, tiara, necklace, earrings, and brooch that she could make entirely her own. The vibrant turquoise suited her youthful elegance, and the diamonds added a sparkle that reflected her lively, sometimes unconventional spirit. Margaret's first public appearance in the Peru came the following year, 1952, at the Royal Film Performance, one of the most glamorous fixtures on the royal calendar. It was also one of the first major occasions of the new reign of her sister, Queen Elizabeth II, adding an extra sense of occasion. The tiara's blue-green stones stood out under the cinema's brilliant lights, their soft glow contrasting beautifully with the icy fire of the diamonds. That night, the Persian turquoise Peru officially began a new chapter. No longer the adornment of a queen, but the signature jewel of a princess who would wear it for decades to come. Throughout the 1960s, Princess Margaret's life was a whirlwind of state occasions, overseas visits, and glittering social events, and the Persian turquoise parure made select but memorable appearances. In 1962, she wore it for the celebrations marking Jamaica's independence, the vibrant turquoise mirroring the island's tropical blues. Standing beside her husband, Anthony Armstrong Jones, she embodied a blend of royal dignity and youthful glamour, the tiara catching the Caribbean sunlight with every movement. The following year, in 1963, the jewels appeared again for the state visit of Belgium to the United Kingdom. At the grand banquet in honor of King Baudouin and Queen Fabiola, Margaret's tiara and necklace stood out against the sea of diamond white, the turquoise lending a dash of individuality to the formal royal tableau. In 1967, she brought the parure back into the spotlight for another royal film performance. This time, the turquoise offered a softer counterpoint to the sharp flashes of cameras, framing her face in a glow that photographs could barely capture. And in 1968, at the gala of the Royal Danish Ballet in London, she once again chose the set, its blend of cool and warmth perfectly suiting an evening that balanced artistic elegance with royal grandeur. Yet, for all its beauty, the Persian turquoise parure was never among Margaret's most frequently worn tiaras. She seemed to reserve it for specific occasions, perhaps because its distinctive color limited its pairing with certain gowns, or perhaps because she preferred to keep it for moments where its uniqueness could truly shine. In an era when she had access to some of the most famous jewels in the royal vaults, this set remained something of a hidden treasure, brought out only when the occasion called for its particular kind of magic. By the 1980s, Princess Margaret had become one of the most instantly recognizable figures in the royal family, her style a seamless blend of tradition and personal flair. The Persian turquoise parure, now a familiar yet still rare sight, accompanied her into this later stage of her public life. Though it no longer appeared as often as in the 1960s, its outings were carefully chosen, each one reinforcing its place as a jewel with deep personal meaning. At grand charity galas and formal banquets throughout the decade, the tiara's distinctive turquoise stones provided a refreshing alternative to the endless sparkle of pure diamonds. Margaret seemed to understand the power of contrast, the calm, oceanic hue against her dark hair, the diamond's brilliance softened by the gem's gentle glow. These were not jewels worn merely for decoration, they were an extension of her identity. One of the most poignant appearances came in 1990 at the 90th birthday celebrations of the Queen Mother. The event was both a personal and public milestone, drawing together generations of royals and a host of dignitaries. On that evening, Margaret wore the parure as a quiet tribute, its history intertwined with her mother's own wedding day and youth. To those who knew the story, it was more than a beautiful set of jewels. It was a visual thread connecting mother and daughter across decades. Even in the years that followed, as her public schedule became less demanding, the Persian turquoise parure remained close at hand for certain occasions. When she did bring it out, it served as a reminder of her own long journey in the public eye, from the vibrant young princess of the 1950s to a senior royal whose style was rooted in both heritage and individuality. In its turquoise glow lay not just beauty, but a lifetime's worth of memories.
When Princess Margaret's life came to its quiet close in 2002, her jewels, so long a part of her public image, passed to her two children, David Armstrong Jones, 2nd Earl of Snowdon, and Lady Sarah Chatto. The collection was both vast and varied, containing iconic royal pieces, as well as jewels Margaret had made uniquely her own over the decades. In 2006, the world had a rare glimpse into this private treasure trove when many of her possessions were offered at a landmark Christie's auction in London. Collectors, historians, and royal watchers crowded the sale room, eager to see which of these storied pieces would pass into new hands. Some of her most famous jewels, including tiaras and statement necklaces, were sold to private buyers, dispersing parts of her collection across the globe. But the Persian turquoise parure was not among them. It is widely believed that the set remained with the Earl of Snowdon, kept within the family rather than sent under the hammer. In that decision lay a quiet acknowledgement of its history, not just as a work of garred craftsmanship, but as a piece intimately linked to both the Queen Mother and Princess Margaret. Today, the parure is rarely seen, making any sighting of it a cause for intrigue among royal jewelry enthusiasts. It remains a rare and valuable heirloom, its turquoise stones still holding the same serene glow that first charmed the crowds at St. James's Palace in 1923. A century on, it stands as both a tangible link to royal history and a reminder that some treasures are meant to be guarded, not displayed.
And so, the Persian turquoise parure continues its quiet life away from the spotlight, a jewel that has crossed generations, carried stories, and held memories for over a century. If you enjoyed this journey through royal history, don't forget to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell so you won't miss the next story behind the world's most fascinating jewels. Your support helps us keep uncovering the treasures of the past and bringing them back to life.